ठीक है। और मेरी स्क्रीन भी सबको विजिबल है?
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है। ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। तो अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरा नाम आसिया शहबाज है। आई एम a student of second year MBBS, and today we're going to be presenting on a very very important topic, that is depression. So depression is something that I believe is not really spoken about, and I believe it's a really important topic that should be addressed, and that's why we have decided that we should talk about it. And we have a really interesting guest with us today जो अपनी लाइफ जर्नी आप लोग के साथ शेयर करेगी. So let's just quickly dive into our topic and start. Alright. So before we really start and get into things, I want everybody to just take a 1 minute pause and make a prayer for Palestine and Lebanon, क्योंकि हम सबको पता है इस वक्त क्या सिचुएशन चल रही है. So I would like everybody to just take a quick pause और एक दो दुआएं कर लें. So that would be, I believe, a lot for them. Okay, so let's start. ठीक है. तो why what is that one forum जिसने हम सबको आज यहाँ पर यूनाइट करके रखा है? दैट इज डेफिनेटली माइंड एंड हेल्थ इंस्टीट्यूट. एंड थैंक्स टू माइंड एंड हेल्थ इंस्टीट्यूट वी हैव गॉट दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी कि आज हमें डिप्रेशन भी बात करने का मौका मिल रहा है. An amazing forum that has been set up by Dr. Anita. She is here with us today. She's a bit off, उनकी तबीयत ठीक नहीं है, but she is still here with us. Prayers for her as well. So these are a bit more details about our institute. So this is one of the link of our website. It's a very good website. I would like everybody to just go there. ये उसी website की एक picture है, how the cover page looks like, and then these are some of the details if somebody wants to contact them or something. So you guys can always refer here. Okay, so let's dive deep into our main topic. So for that, I would like to introduce our guest, that is Dr. Aniqa Dejwani. Are you here?
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Aniqa Dejwani is a director of V4. She's an associate at Hamara Mustaqbil, and she has 5 plus years of teaching experience, and she has a lot more to tell. And I believe the session that we have today with her, she is going to share a lot about her. So these are just like bits and pieces about her introduction, but I believe she has a lot to share today. Okay, ma'am. कैसी हैं आप? अस्सलाम वालेकुम.
मैं ठीक अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह आप कैसी हैं?
Alhamdulillah.
First of
Okay.
all, thank you for the wonderful introduction.
No problem. I believe you have a lot to just give to our institute. So I believe मेरी introduction तो बहुत छोटी थी, and I believe you have a lot to give in. Okay, so let's start. So when I think about the word depression, so आपसे मेरा सवाल पहला ये है कि how would you describe the word depression? How would you what do you have the understanding about the word depression? And if somebody just asked you what depression means, what would you say about it?
First of all, like being a survivor of depression, I'd say I survived depression. Like I would not say I suffered it because the changes that I feel within myself after surviving depression, they're immense, they're huge. I completely changed as a person. But when describing about depression, I would say that it's a lonely place. Like consider yourself in any public place. सही है वहाँ पे you feel there are a lot of people and there are your friends as well. You're sitting at a table with them. You're surrounded by your friends, and yet you feel lonely, right? And you feel that you do not belong here. That is the constant feeling that you have during depression. This is this 24 by 7 feeling. You're in your family, you're sitting with everyone, and there's this constant feeling that you don't belong here. कुछ सही नहीं हो रहा है, कुछ कुछ गलत है. And um, like every time, every place, either you could be, you could be doing your daily chores, or you could be studying or anything, or you could be at a public event, you could be at a wedding or something. This feeling does not go away, and you have, and other than that, you have to concede it, because sadly and unfortunately, the way our society is now conditioned is, for example, if you're talking about your issues, it's like, अच्छा अच्छा बस कितने मसले हैं तुम्हारे साथ. And personally, for example, for like me, there was nothing physical. Everything that I was going through was completely mental. It was completely, it was not on the surface. So if you would talk to anyone who was, apparently I was living a very successful life, like, even though I was very young, but I was excelling at everything during the time I was going through depression. So what I want to say, just consider it as a very lonely place, consider yourself as in a very dark room, and you cannot approach anyone, though there are people who might be ready to help you out. But it's like this constant feeling कि आपको ऐसा लग रहा है कि यार, I cannot talk to anyone about this, because दूसरा क्या सोचेगा. So that is how I would describe depression.
That's a very good description. I believe आपने सिर्फ एक statement पास नहीं किया, but you've just given out like an entire scenario based answer, and I believe this is a very good way to put out a description to a specific terminology. Okay, so proceeding to our next question, my next question is: can you share when you first realized you were what you were and when you were experiencing depression? So how it basically felt. So basically, a lot of people we have around, and they don't really recognize they are going through depression, and then when they finally do, then how did you really address that phase, and how did you really get to know about this specific time of yours? So I just want you to just start from the very beginning, from where your entire depression just where your from where your symptoms started to come, and then finally aapko kab pata chala, and how those days went about.
Okay, so when the first symptoms of depression appeared to me, I was very young. Now, when I think about it, like, I was very young. I was in eighth class only. So I guess I was not even 15 years old. Yeah, I guess I was not. I was very young during that time. And how the depression, what I felt, and what my therapist also told me, what the major reason was because I am eldest sibling of a desi household. I would not describe it as completely desi, because Alhamdulillah, my mother is a doctor as well, and my father is also, very, you can say, well progressed in these things. But still, we live in a society where these things are not very common and are not very talked about. So yeah, I was very young during that time. And what was the major reason was, I had taken a lot of pressure to be, to I was a perfectionist. I wanted to be perfect at everything. And I wanted to become like, there was this constant my relatives and all, they, this constant thing that you have to be perfect, आपको role model बनना है. I'm so sorry.
It's fine, you can take your time. I know it's a very difficult phase, and every time somebody just gets that those memories back, एक थोड़ा बहुत touching point होता है. It's fine. We're all gonna cooperate, and you can take your time.
Okay, so there was this constant urge to be perfect, right? And like, I could not. I'm so sorry. I am completely breaking down right now. Um, Okay, so I could not make a mistake basically, and that thing, like, I used to eat food and I was like, क्या मैं ये सही से कर रही हूँ? Is this the proper way to eat? If I was drinking water, so I was like, is this the proper way to drink? इसका मेरे बहन भाई पे क्या असर पड़ेगा? And that thing, completely got into my head. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So all of these things like completely got into my head, and like though when I think about it, like I was so young and so naive, um, but still all of that ultimately led to my collapse. Even though I was when I even look at my life when I was at class 8, I was like the topper of my class. I always stood at not even second or third, I was always first. At every test, at every, at each and everything, I was excelling at sports. I was, excelling at every extracurricular. I was in almost, I would volunteer in everything. Even if it was cheerleading, I would be the one in that. And I used to excel that as well. So someone would look at me and they would think isko kya hi masla hoga, yeah, you look at someone who is perfect at everything, and you always think like iski zindagi mein kya hi masla hoga, but that perfection also came from somewhere. I'm so sorry.
So
um,
true. That's so true. मतलब that is something like हमारी society realize नहीं करती कि every every other person जो आपको सामने से जो दिख रहा है, maybe they're broken from the
exactly.
inside.
Like you would see a person and they would be so chirpy, they would be very cheerful, they would talk to you about everything, and you'll ultimately you don't know what that person is going through inside, right? So that is where I remember I have always been a person who has, who is very high on hygiene. Like all of my friends also know about it. Like I shower like crazy. I used to, I would describe myself as completely crazy person, right? Um, but during that time, I remember like I didn't used to shower for a week straight. And what was my thinking कि अच्छा मैं नहाने के टाइम मेरा टाइम ज़ाया होगा, I could study during that time. So like, or every time whatever I used to do, even I didn't used to sit with my family, I used to be like कि नहीं मैं इस टाइम पढ़ लेती हूँ, मैं इस टाइम ये कर लेती हूँ. So that was why I was excelling at my academics so much, because I found studying as a cope up mechanism. Ultimately I got to realize when my mama told me कि तुम्हें क्या मतलब, my mother realized कि this is not normal for a person like me who showers 3 times 4 times a day, cut to a person who didn't shower for it straight for a week. That was a major change within me. Also, like simple tasks. The first one of the other incidents when I realized that Acha, this is not normal and I am literally going through something, was I remember like my mother is a doctor. She always has been on duty during the morning time, right? So I have always from a very young age I have cooked breakfast for my father. So I remember I cooked breakfast for my father, and we were sitting on the table. And my father, he also was realizing that I am going through something. So he handed over me a rusk, right? And I started crying because I could not eat that. Like simple taking a bite was like a huge task for me. I could not do that. So this was when I ultimately realized that, okay, I have to talk to someone about it, this is not normal. And that is where I approached my mother as well. Okay, I think that I am going through depression, there is something wrong. I didn't ultimately understand that it was depression, but I realized that this was not normal, that there is something wrong. And then is when I consulted therapists, etc., and I was diagnosed with depression.
Okay, that is definitely कुछ चीज़ें आपकी ज़िंदगी में बस हो रही होती हैं एंड यू नेवर रियलाइज दैट देयर इज़ अ प्रॉब्लम एंड देन फाइनली व्हेन यू स्टार्ट रियलाइजिंग देयर इज़ अ प्रॉब्लम, वहाँ पर जाके आप अपने सोल्यूशन की तरफ जाते हैं. एंड आई फील दैट स्मॉल इंसिडेंट जो मे बी जस्ट लाइक यू मेंशन कि एक बाइट लेना किसके लिए मुश्किल होगा, बट यू सी कि मतलब ये छोटी छोटी चीज़ें होती हैं. when they start getting wrong, that is when you start addressing them. And if I'm gonna just extend my question here, so like आपके ये इनिशियल फेजेस जो इनिशियल सिम्टम्स थे डिप्रेशन के अंदर, फाइनली आपका जो रियलाइजेशन पीरियड था, लाइक उसमें कितनी ड्यूरेशन होगी, वीक्स, डेज?
It was like I don't know the exact period because for me depression started like very silently. But I guess it was 3 to 4 weeks. I guess. Yeah, it must be 3 to 4 weeks.
So that's like a very long duration that we
Yeah, it was.
finally realize. Okay, so my next question to you is ke, what is that one specific memory that you have that was, you know, the most challenging part for you for dealing depression?
Okay, so if, when I describe it, like for me, everything became difficult. Like I've already mentioned before, drinking water was difficult for me. Brushing my teeth was very difficult. Taking a shower, getting out of my bed, everything. I used to cry over simple things like मेरे बाल नहीं बन रहे. I used to start crying. um yani someone so like it was when I, like when we were playing among cousins and all, अगर किसी ने मुझसे जोर से बात कर ली, I used to start crying there and then. And you know, other person does not realize कि कुछ abnormal है, like this is not normal. They start teasing you about it. क्या इसको तो रोने की आदत है, like it's she's becoming very sensitive. And ultimately questions were raised upon my upbringing as well, कि बहुत ज़्यादा लाड प्यार मिला है तो बिगड़ गई है. Sorry. Yeah, so these were the things that made things difficult for me, but I feel the most challenging part was going to school. It was the most difficult part of my life. I remember because I was using studying as a coping mechanism. I used to miss field trips. I didn't used to go anywhere. Even during our recess time, I used to go and study. So ultimately, then I was, labeled as a nerd. And you don't, though it was just a simple word, right? Just someone calling me nerd, but that used to hit me so hard. I cannot describe you guys about it. But it was like सबने पता किसी ने मुझे पता नहीं क्या कह दिया, because it was my coping mechanism and I could not stop studying because studying was my part and parcel of life at that moment. So you know, constantly teasing like ये तो हर वक्त पढ़ती रहती है, ये तो ये करती रहती है. So what I want to, spread from this platform as well is be mindful of whatever you're saying to anyone. You don't know how what that
Excuse
person.
me, ma'am, your voice is not clear.
um is it clear now?
It's clear on our end.
For us, it's clear. Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. Okay, so okay, so
Yes, ma'am, ab clear.
you have to be basically mindful of whatever you're saying to anyone, because you might not know what that person is going through. And आपका बहुत छोटा सा word, like even किसी को पागल कह देना, would hit like a bullet to that person. So yeah, these were basically, I feel that though depression was a difficult part of my life, but what made it even more difficult were the people that I was surrounded with. Though I was surrounded with some of very supportive people, for example, like mother, she stood like a pillar with me. But there were certain people who made it even more difficult.
Hats off to your mom for being there for you and like understanding your situation, because I know there are a lot of people who would say that, you know, उनके parents ही सबसे ज़्यादा नहीं समझते, and I feel कि parents are the main, you know, your support system. अगर वो आपको नहीं समझ रहे हो ना, then I feel कि one could go into the worstest of their conditions. Other than that,
True,
I feel कि स्कूल, आई ऑल्सो फील स्कूल आपके लिए इसलिए भी चैलेंजिंग होगा क्योंकि द पीपल अराउंड, क्योंकि मतलब जिस तरह लोग नॉर्मली एक्ट कर रहे थे, यू weren't डूइंग इट दैट वे, तो आपको एक उसमें भी एक आउटसाइड फीलिंग आ रही है कि लाइक वो लोग जो कर रहे हैं
exactly,
वो मैं नहीं कर पा रही हूँ.
exactly.
ओके.
Like normal things, PT में जाना was like I always used to look at like उनको मैं हसरत से देखती थी कि ये सब कर पा रहे, and I could not do that.
That is really a very concerning point. Okay, so my next question to you is, were there any key people, therapies or coping mechanism that helped you? I know आपने इसका थोड़ा बहुत आंसर दे दिया है, but I want you कि थोड़ा elaborate. I know कि आपकी mother was like a very key person in your entire revival process, but I want कि आप थोड़ा बहुत और इस part को elaborate करें, how you coped up with the entire thing. थोड़ा सा अगर आप उसमें detail share करें.
Okay. So first of all, I'm like very grateful that my mother is a well educated person, and that is why I feel that it is very important कि हम female education पे बहुत ज़्यादा emphasize करें, because fathers are like 90% of the time out of your house. It is the mothers who have to deal. Though my mother is also a working woman, but still, she had to deal with most of the stuff, and she was the main person who basically diagnosed कि अच्छा, this is not normal. You are going through something, and she made me feel like, um, she did not make it feel like this was something out of the blue, right? उन्होंने मुझे completely during that stage, she treated me completely normally. She made me feel very normal. मतलब मुझे ऐसा नहीं लग रहा था. Those later when we talk about it, she tells me कि ये भी होता था. Some of the parts I don't even remember about my life. But when she mentions it कि अच्छा तुम ये भी होता था, and also right now I realize कि उनके लिए it must be very difficult. Like for मैं तो परेशान थी ही, right? But for a mother, like आपके बच्चे को बुखार भी हो तो you're really concerned, and especially when your child is going through something like depression. Foreign say, for example, because the main reason why this comes it because हमारे society में unfortunately अभी तक depression को as a stigma treat किया जाता है. It is something like, जैसे हर किसी को नहीं हो सकता, but it's very common. It's more common than we think. आपको पता भी नहीं होगा how many people around you might have been through it and recovered from it. So I feel that is why उनके लिए it must be very difficult. And like I mentioned earlier, कि questions were raised on my upbringing as well, कि इसको बिगाड़ दिया है, लाड बहुत लाड प्यार कर रहे हैं. So that must be concerning for her as well. हर जगह एक ही बात सुनना, it must be, and you have to respond to them in a rightful manner, right? आप उनको फौरन से you cannot shut them down. You have to respond to them appropriately as well. So I feel that it must be very difficult for her, and she's the one who took me to therapy and all. So I feel that educated mothers का होना is very crucial, very important. And some of the key things that I used to do, and that was, एक तो थेरेपी मेरी चल ही रही थी. आई यूज टू टॉक टू माई मदर अ लॉट अबाउट इट के राइट नाउ मुझे ये हो रहा है, अब मुझे ये फील हो रहा है. एंड like I know, because her duty hours are like very tough, so her वक्त सुनना must not be very easy for her, but she never made me feel like कि अच्छा अभी I cannot talk about this, हम थोड़ी देर में बात करते हैं. She used to be very tired. I used to wake her up like at 3 or 4 o'clock कि मुझे ये हो रहा है. uh, like I used to literally, मेरा heartbeat इतनी तेज हो जाती थी. And it was during that time, one of the other coping mechanisms for me was like walking. मैं कंटिन्यूस चलती रहती थी. लाइक आई यूज टू वॉक फॉर आवर्स. हर but I cannot even talk about it. Like I cannot even stress upon this enough, but I literally developed varicose veins because of that. मैं इतना ज़्यादा चलती रहती थी. माई फीट टिल नाउ, देर लाइक माई वो उसमें अभी तक लाइक देर इज़ अ हार्ड स्किन फॉर्म्ड बिकॉज ऑफ इट अभी तक. लाइक इट्स बिन सो मैनी ईयर्स आफ्टर आई कोप्ड अप फ्रॉम प्रिपरेशन, लेकिन ये अभी तक मेरे साथ है. तो शी वॉज द वन जो मुझे बिठाती थी, एंड बिल्कुल छोटे बच्चों की तरह ट्रीट करना. So I feel that one of the key persons that helped me through my depression was my mother.
a lot of duas to your mom for, and I think एक point जो आपने बोला ना कि we need educated moms. Now I need to clear this thing कि देखिए educated होने एक अलग बात है and having feelings and understanding others एक अलग बात है, क्योंकि there are a lot of people जो educated है but वो अपनी education को सही तरह apply नहीं करते, and they still don't have those feelings in them to help others. So दो डिफरेंट चीज़ें हैं, वी नीड टू एड्रेस देम कि देर आर अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल जो एजुकेटेड होते हैं बट वो फिर भी आपकी सिचुएशन को नहीं फील करते, और समटाइम्स वो कभी कभार ज़्यादा आपके ऊपर आपके डिप्रेशन को या आपकी जो भी सिचुएशन है उनकी उसको ज़्यादा वर्सन करने में एक रोल प्ले कर रहे होते हैं. सो आई फील द बेस्ट यू कैन डू फॉर एवरीबडी अराउंड, चाहे वो डिप्रेशन में हो ना हो, जस्ट बी अ डिसेंट पर्सन.
Exactly. Just be a good human being. Kindness is does not cost you a penny. Be kind always, and whatever you're saying to anyone, just repeat that in your head as well. Ki, does that make sense? Is it beneficial? Could that hurt to another person? And that is how I feel that we could be better human beings in general.
True, that's very good point. Alright, so coming to our next question, maintaining mental health well-being is a very continuous process, and regarding that thing, how do you maintain your well-being now, and what advice would you give to others in a similar situation?
Okay, like I would again mention my mother. So initially, before I suffered from depression, like we just used to have a mom and a daughter relationship. But after I, recovered, or after when I was going through depression, my mother became like a friend to me, and still now is just like a friend to me. I could literally go to her and talk about anything. So one of the things right now is still, whenever I face any difficulty or anything concerned regarding any person or anything, I go and talk to her. Um, कि मेरे साथ ये हुआ and ये हुआ. So one of the key things is that. Secondly, I started journaling after I went through depression, and journaling have helped me a lot. It helps to basically channel my emotions regarding everything, and when I read it later, I realize how powerful someone's emotions can be. Like at a certain point when you're like very angry or anything, when I write it down and when I read it later, then ultimately you realize how your emotions could not only others, how your emotions could affect you as well. Because when I write something down in anger, right, and then when I read it again, I completely feel like this is not me who wrote all this. So journaling and talking to people about people or my mother in general were the key, are still a key mechanisms that I still use.
Okay, that is a good point. So just to list these things again, just talk to anybody that you feel is gonna provide you with a safe space. जिसके साथ आपको feel हो कि you can just share anything with them and they're gonna listen to you for hours and hours, and वो आपको एक judgy वाला look नहीं देंगे, as if कोई आपको judge नहीं कर रहा है, and एक आपको safe space feel होगी उनसे बात करके. So that, and just any other hobby that you feel is helping you, just hold on to that hobby and continue doing it. Is that right?
Also, yeah, also during that time and after that time, I also became very close to my religion. I started focusing on religion a lot. I focused on my namaz. I started reading Quran and its translation. So these were the things. There were particular ayahs. For example, there of the ayah of changing qibla, which was I don't exactly know the translation, but it is something like, we have constantly seen you turning your head towards the skies and we are with you. So there were certain ayahs that were very impactful during the time I was suffering from depression, and are still up to up till now. They're like, whenever I feel like I'm really lonely, I always realize कि नहीं, कोई भी नहीं हो तो मेरे साथ अल्लाह है.
A very important point, I feel. Just hold on to your deen and know कि just like you mentioned, कोई नहीं है, Allah है. एंड आई फील अगर ये वाली थॉट आपके अंदर फिट हो गई ना, then you would never feel lonely, and that would just help you for a long term. Okay, moving to my next question. Can you share an advice for all those people who are currently going through depression, or maybe their loved ones are going through depression? Like how what advice would you give them how they can get through this entire situation?
I would just like to mention, like, there is light at the end of any tunnel, every tunnel. No matter how long the tunnel is, no matter how difficult it is to cross the tunnel, there is light at the end, and you'll heal from it. Ultimately, this. Just consider it as a phase, and you will get through it. Just don't consider yourself कि अब this is, if that particular thing has happened to you, you'll get tarnished, or you'll get tainted for your entire life. It will not, it won't remain like that ultimately, right? And time passes, everything will be better, inshallah. Just you have to find your way through it. You have to make your way. You have to find people that you could talk to. You have to find your coping mechanism, and ultimately everyone gets through it, hopefully, inshallah. Just hold on to your being. If you can afford therapy and all, go for therapy, or you could talk to, if you cannot, talk to any person that you trust, and ultimately you will get through depression, inshallah.
The starting point that you mentioned कि every tunnel has light at the end, I feel वो होती ना कुछ बातें जो आपके पास बस एक जिंदगी भर के लिए रह जाती हैं दिमाग में. I feel this small statement will be there for a long time.
I hope so. It does for everyone, because this is the statement that has held me through my depression as well. Ultimately, I will get through it.
Proud of you. Okay, moving to the last question for today. Did you experience any positive changes or lessons from going through this experience? Because whenever we consider a situation, कोई भी जिंदगी में कोई भी ups and downs आते हैं, there's always a final saying that we have regarding it. कुछ हमने उससे सीखा. So what would you say? आपके लिए क्या outcomes थे? What would you state few points कि आपने क्या सीखा इस entire journey से?
Like I mentioned earlier as well, that I completely changed as a person after I went through depression. Initially, I believe I also used to be a person जो कुछ भी कैसे मतलब ऐसे ही कह देता था, without even realizing के what impact it would make on that person, right? um, कुछ भी कह देना, मतलब, एंड इवन किसी को बुरा फील करा के खुद को मतलब I feel that so unfortunate and sad for our society in general. Like, मैंने तो उसको रुला दिया, मैंने तो उसको ये कहा, एंड उसको तो इतना बुरा लगा. That is not good. This is not something that you should be proud of, right? I feel like it would be a huge statement, but we all somewhere have become a sadist, right? We've started enjoying other people's sadness and trauma. And I feel that after depression, what I started realizing was to be mindful of whatever I'm saying. Though there must be certain points still now कि अभी भी मैंने कोई ऐसी बात की होगी कि किसी को बुरा लगे, for sure. But before, like I was before my depression, compared to after my depression, after I cope up with it, I became more mindful um, of how to deal with things also. अब अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, whenever anything falls in me, I always realize that I have Allah with me. I will always have Allah with me. I just need to pray nafil and leave everything on Allah. Moreover, I've realized I am a human. I am not a robot. I can never be perfect. There will always be some things that make me imperfect, and that are particularly the things that make you beautiful, राइट. अदर देन, अगर वो इम्परफेक्शंस ही नहीं होंगी, तो फिर लाइक हम में और रोबोट्स में तो फिर कोई फर्क ही नहीं हुआ ना. Like these are the things that makes me human. So I realized I can make mistakes, and that's completely normal. I've started enjoying life after that. Also I started balancing my studies and all. Also, one thing more that I realized, that being a role model for my siblings is not my job. I am just a few years older than them, and that cannot add pressure to my life, because everyone has their own journey, and everyone has their own journey. They have their own path to lead. They have to learn their own lessons. I cannot be someone who takes trauma for all of them, just to कि उनको कुछ ना हो. It could never be like that. Everyone has to go through certain things in order to learn something. अगर if I deal with everything, um, in order to make sure कि अच्छा मेरे बहन भाइयों को ये नहीं डील करना पड़ेगा, और आई हैव टू बी अ रोल मॉडल और एनीथिंग, देन वो फिर कैसे सीखेंगे? वो तो कभी सीखेंगे ही नहीं कि अच्छा हम ऐसे करेंगे तो इसका रिजल्ट आउटकम ये भी हो सकता है, right? And also, it is our differences that makes us separate people. So that is what I realized through my depression. And now I, alhamdulillah, I've become what I believe a much better human after my journey.
Alhamdulillah, that's great to hear. Okay, you don't really now realize your entire phase as a bad phase, and I know it was a bad phase, but आप उसको अपने साथ उसको एक hold on करके रखा है, but you've just consider it one of your past, and you've realized the good parts of it, and आपने उसको अपनी ज़िंदगी में implement किया. That's good. Okay, so now we're gonna proceed to the final session, this final segment where we are gonna be taking questions from our audience. So we do have a lot of questions in our chat box. I'm gonna read those out, and I would appreciate if you could answer to those.
Sure.
Okay, so we have a lot of appreciation from a lot of audience. Okay, so we have this one question that says, "How do you deal with depression when you couldn't afford therapist?"
Okay, so I guess this was something that I mentioned in my last answer as well. Um, if you cannot, I know therapy unfortunately is very expensive. Though there should be measures taken in order to make that accessible for everyone, because therapy is not something that you should go to when you're suffering from depression, right? Um, Even if there is a even minor inconvenience, or you cannot navigate your emotions, go to a therapist, talk to them. They're specialized in that, and they will help you find a way through it. But if you cannot afford a therapist, so what you could do is find your safe space. Find a person that you can trust or you could talk to. If, for example, you cannot trust anyone, then you could always start journaling. Journaling is one of the tested and very effective methods to cope up if you're suffering from depression. Also, there are many YouTube videos on made by certain people who help people through depression, who make motivative videos and all. So you could listen to those videos as well, and I feel that they will help you, hopefully.
I would like to just add one point in here. कि realize one thing: you are the most important to your body, and realize that you are the most important person for yourself. तो अपने ऊपर invest करने में कभी भी कंजूसी नहीं करें, because अगर आप healthy हैं, then you can do everything. Consider your health your first priority, and then the other things. um, महंगे रेस्टोरेंट्स में खाना is not a priority. The most basic priority is your own health, not just your physical health but your mental health as well.
True.
Okay, I don't know if this is a question. Toxic household doesn't support in depression. Okay, if we just state it as a question, so if a toxic household is not supporting somebody with depression, and if they don't really have a like free space to talk to somebody else, then and even if they're doing, they can't really do journaling and stuff because somebody just opens up their copies and they read stuff. What can they do?
um, One thing that you could, like I mentioned, listening to motivating videos as well. Other thing that you could do is write something down, whatever you're feeling at that point in time, and tear it apart and throw it. Right, you could also do that. It's very sad and it's very unfortunate, like how your house, what alhamdulillah, I've been blessed with a very supportive household, but I can agree with you. Okay, there are households that are have been becoming very toxic, and they aid, they add fuel to your depression as well. It's very sad, and but you could always listen to these kind of videos. You could write something down, or and you could throw it. So I feel that might help you, inshallah.
Okay, now we have another question. Do you think medicine are more helpful or counseling?
I personally did not, I wasn't prescribed medicines, so I don't know about it. But I feel like counseling is the first step, and then they put you on medicine. I'm not sure about it, but I feel that I guess this is the process. Like if they feel that only counseling is not helping you, they put you on medicines as well.
Okay, we have Aisha Siddiqa here. I believe she wants to say something. We're gonna address your question. You can speak out after we are done with all of the questions in the chat box. I hope that's fine. Okay, so we have another question here. Parents constantly compare me and my siblings with other people's. Doesn't matter what we did, we were always not good enough. They even try to make us competitive with each other in between elder and younger sibling. Grades, social skills, I mean, in almost every aspect. Not independent enough to leave the house. What can I do in this case?
Um, See, I know it must be very difficult, especially like I've realized this in my household as well. Though it is not something that is endorsed by my parents, alhamdulillah, they realize that every person is different and everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Um, but there are certain people in our extended family who add this pressure on my siblings, like अच्छा बड़ी बहन तो डॉक्टर बन रही है, बड़ी बहन तो ये भी कर रही है, ये भी कर रही है, तुम लोग ऐसे नहीं हो, तुम लोग ऐसा क्यों नहीं करते हो. Especially when I was going through these things, I was excelling at almost anything you name it, and I was excelling at that. That was particularly my case, and that created a comparison for my siblings as well. So this might be very conscious, or this might be completely unconscious. um, One thing that I want you to realize is for it, like I don't know, but it might be that your parents are not conscious about that, they are doing this deliberately. It might be something that is very unconscious. They don't want to do this deliberately, but it's something like अच्छा बड़ा तो ये करता था, छोटा ये करता है. But you could always talk to your elder sibling about this. Okay, these are certain things, this competition and all this is making me feel very bad. Also, you need to realize this thing is that you are a completely different person. You might be excelling at something that is, your elder sibling might not be good at. So everything has, अल्लाह ताला ने हर किसी की अलग स्ट्रेंथ्स एंड वीकनेसेस के साथ उसको पैदा किया है. अगर आप हर चीज में एक्सेल कर पाते तो फिर आप इंसान कैसे बनते. सही है. सो दीज आर द थिंग्स दैट आर basically that make us human, that this diversity is what adds beauty in life, right? So अपने अंदर इतनी ज़्यादा स्ट्रेंथ ले आओ कि इवन इफ कंपैरिजन इज टेकिंग प्लेस, रियलाइज योर स्ट्रेंथ्स कि अच्छा मैं इस काम में अच्छी हूँ, लेकिन ये इनको ये काम नहीं आता. right? For example, there are many for this is we only think that a person is intelligent if if they're excelling academically, but no, there are different types of intelligence. There's even social intelligence, there's emotional intelligence. So you might be good at that. For example, you might be good at your social interactions, and your other siblings might not be good at that. So yes, so realize that every person has their own journey, everyone has their own path, and you have to, your whatever you will receive in your life, your position has already been decided. In law mahfuz everything has been written, right? So you do not need to stress about your future. ये मेरे साथ कंपैरिजन हो रहा है, वो ये भी कर सकता है, मैं ये नहीं कर सकती. Don't stress about it. Just live your life to the fullest. Do your hard work. अपनी तरफ से पूरा दो and leave the rest on Allah Taala. And Alhamdulillah, and inshallah, um, it will help you out.
Just to add a point, try to find a good time and let people know what problem you are facing with them, क्योंकि मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स उनको ये पता ही नहीं चल रहा होता कि आपको एक उनकी बात बुरी लग रही है. सो जस्ट ट्राई टू फाइंड द बेस्ट टाइम और उनको ये बताओ कि ये चीज़ आपको ट्रिगर करी है, यू आर नॉट लाइकिंग दिस स्पेसिफिक थिंग अबाउट देम, एंड just let them know about it. Maybe they can improve on it. Okay, I'm so sorry, Aisha Siddiqa, for keeping you on hold. I guess you had a question or you just wanted to add something and you can speak up.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I hope you guys are doing really well. So, I saw a question here that was regarding what is more important and what is more helpful in terms of medicines and counseling when it comes to depression, right? So, as Anika already mentioned, she wasn't prescribed to any such medicine. So, she might not have that experience, but उसने काफ़ी और चीज़ें clear कर दी. But there is one small point I really want to mention, because I am someone who was like who had to go to like a therapist as well, and was advised to take medicines too. So I'm going to give you a very clear answer to that. I hope whoever asked that question is right now in the meeting as well. Okay, I have been told by a very qualified and experienced psychiatrist that, as Anika said, counseling is like really important. आपका first step वही होना चाहिए. आप medicines पे direct नहीं जा सकते, right? But after you have like approached a therapist or a counselor, उसके बाद if things are like not improving, if you see कि कोई इम्प्रूवमेंट नहीं आ रही आपकी मेंटल हेल्थ में, देन लाइक यू हैव टू अप्रोच अ साइकियाट्रिस्ट फॉर दैट. ही विल टेल यू कि ये बात उन्होंने मुझे मेरे साइकियाट्रिस्ट ने मुझे बताई थी कि जो मेडिसिन है ना, वो सिर्फ एक फ्यूल का काम करेगी. सही है. फ्यूल का काम करने का मतलब है कि जो असल काम है ना, जो एनर्जी वाली चीज़ है, वो आपको मेडिसिन से आ गई, लेकिन अब स्टीयरिंग जो है गाड़ी का, वो कहाँ घुमाना है, एनर्जी लेके आप क्या करेंगे, वो जो स्टीयरिंग कैसे घुमाना है, उस वो वाली बात जो है ना, वो आपको काउंसलर बताएगा, वो आपका थेरेपिस्ट बताएगा. तो जहाँ मेडिसिन इंपॉर्टेंट है, आई फील लाइक उससे कहीं ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट काउंसलिंग है, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली आपको फर्स्ट स्टेप मेडिसिन लेना नहीं हो सकता. medicines are not always good for your health, right? So this was one thing I really wanted to mention, जो मुझे भी आज तक जिसने मुझे like motivate किया to keep going to a therapist, was even after I was like taking medicines for like for a very long time. I don't even remember. But ये है कि medicines अगर आप ले रहे हैं, सिर्फ medicines आपको नहीं कोई फ़ायदा देंगी. आपको उठना है बेड से निकलना है, बाहर स्टेप करना है, एक पर्पस लाना है ज़िंदगी में, और पहला पर्पस ये होगा कि आपने अपनी हेल्थ इंप्रूव करनी है, तब आप बाकी पर्पसेस अपने लाइफ के पूरे कर सकते हैं. तो वो पर्पस ला के आपने क्या करना है, सबसे पहले तो आप जाएंगे काउंसलर के पास. बेशक आप जौन सी भी मेडिसिन दे रहे हैं, जितनी भी हाई डोज की मेडिसिन है, वो आपको फ़ायदा नहीं देगी. मार्क माई वर्ड्स, वो फ़ायदा नहीं देगी. मैंने ये करके देखा है. मैंने लाइक आई हैव टेकन मेडिसिन फॉर लाइक आई हैड बीन टेकिंग मेडिसिन फॉर लाइक 3 months. मुझे कोई फ़ायदा नहीं हुआ था. मुझे मेरे डॉक्टर ने बताया था कि अगर आप मेडिसिन, वही वाली बात आ गई, आई एम लाइक मेंशनिंग इट अगेन एंड अगेन, कि मेडिसिन एक फ्यूल है, स्टीयरिंग कहाँ घुमाना है वो आपको काउंसलर ने बताना है. आपको नहीं उस पॉइंट पे समझ आएगा कि क्या करना है आप, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली आपकी जो बीइंग अ मेडिकल स्टूडेंट, मैं एक मेडिकल स्टूडेंट हूँ, तो मुझे उस चीज़ का आइडिया है कि आपको उस वक्त आपकी जो रियल सेल्फ है ना वो आपके दिमाग में नहीं होती, सही है। उस लो फेज में जो आप सोच रहे होते हो, इट्स नॉट ट्रू एट ऑल। कभी भी अपने थॉट्स को उस वक्त इतनी इंपॉर्टेंस मत दें क्योंकि उस वक्त आपको बहुत नेगेटिव थॉट्स आएंगे अपने बारे में भी और अपने इन्वायरमेंट के बारे में भी, जो एक्चुअली एग्जिस्ट नहीं करते। तो इसलिए वो चीज़, उस चीज़ को ओवरकम करने के लिए, उस चीज़ को आपको एक क्लैरिटी दिखाने के लिए आपको थेरेपिस्ट की ज़रूरत है। मेडिसिन आर नॉट गना हेल्प यू अलोन। एक ज़रूरी चीज़ है, बट जो रियल फैक्टर है वो therapy है, which I guess Anika mentioned very well. So this is all I wanted to mention. I hope my voice was clear.
Voice was clear, and थैंक यू फॉर एड्रेसिंग द क्वेश्चन। एंड आई बिलीव कि जो इस सिचुएशन से गुजरा होता है ना, दे कैन ऑलवेज ऑलवेज गिवन अ वेरी गुड इनपुट regarding the question. And okay, Dr. Faryal has raised her hand. I believe she also has some questions or some input to add in. Dr. Faryal, you can always speak up.
Yes. Aslam.
Walaikum
Assalamu
assalam.
alaikum. Actually, I just want to ask one thing. As Anika really, she mentioned a very great deal of depression. But I just wanted to ask one thing. Like she said, she becomes more religious after having the episodes of depression. But I also heard from some people, but I'm not sure if they were suffering from depression or it was just something else. Like they're the people who were already religious, so their activities got retarded. So would you like to add some comment on that?
Was it during depression or after depression?
Maybe when the depression is going to start, like some people speaks like their activity as their usual activity start getting retarded. So it's their
Exactly.
religious activities like
Um,
offering salah.
like I also mentioned, like daily tasks become very difficult for you, and you become really demotivated. You don't want to do anything. So it completely makes sense. During depression, you don't want to do anything, and it for me, I became closer to my religion after I went through depression. After I went through depression, I realized that okay, I need to be, because my mother, she is alhamdulillah very a very religious person, and she used to tell me ayahs कि Allah Taala ये कहते हैं, and then it created an intrigue within myself as well for me to read it, for me to read the entire translation and to understand what it was talking about. So it was after my depression that I became closer to religion. But yes, during the time I was suffering from depression, it was very difficult for me to pray namaz, though alhamdulillah, because my family, alhamdulillah, there's very there is immense stress paid upon namaz. We cannot skip namaz at all. So alhamdulillah, during that time, I was praying, but I did not feel motivated to do it. But after going through that phase, I became closer to religion.
Confusion, Dr. Faryal.
Yes.
ये
Okay.
जी जी
मैडम हाजरा का
अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह.
भी कोई सवाल है शायद, पूछा
And
था
one more thing,
शायद.
can we get the contact number of Anika?
Yes, yes. You can find that in group, and we can share that again. You can just text Dr. Anita or me, and we
Okay,
can share that. I hope that's fine with
okay.
Anika.
Yeah, it's completely fine.
Dr. Hajra, Madam Hajra, would you like to add something in?
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। जी मैं
Walaikum
हाजिरा बात कर
Assalam.
रही हूँ। कैसे हैं आप सब? ठीक ठाक है? खैरियत से हैं? जी मैं बिल्कुल सुन रही हूँ। अब 2 मिनट में, क्योंकि सेशन हमारा एंड होने वाला है, इसलिए मैं बहुत ज्यादा कोई बड़ी बात नहीं करूंगी। जस्ट मैं एक बात जरूर कहना चाहूंगी आप सबसे कि एटलीस्ट हमें जरूर हम सबको, अपने बच्चों को, अपने दोस्तों को, अपने जितने भी सारे हमारे जानने वाले हैं, उन सबको हमें सिर्फ एक चीज को जरूर हमें उसको ये कहना चाहिए उस वक्त हमें कि जब कोई डिप्रेशन से गुजर रहा हो तो उसको ये बावर करा देना चाहिए कि कम्युनिकेशन स्किल इज द पावरफुल थिंग रादर देन ऑल मेडिसिन, रादर देन ऑल काइंड ऑफ different accessories. The powerful communication of your desire जो आपका हो रहा है आपके साथ, उसको आप कम्युनिकेट कीजिए किसी के साथ. ये आपको लाजमी उनको ये बात बतानी है कि जब तक आप कम्युनिकेट नहीं करोगे, आप बताओगे नहीं उन चीजों को, उस वक्त तक कोई भी आपकी हेल्प नहीं कर सकता, या कोई समझ नहीं पाएगा कि आपको इश्यू क्या है. बहुत से लोगों को कम्युनिकेशन इश्यू होता है. तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल उनको इस बात पे एग्री करना चाहिए कि कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स को अपनी जो है ना वो बढ़ाइए, और जस्ट कम्युनिकेशन को अपना मेडिसिन बनाइए, क्योंकि बहुत से लोग बहुत सी चीजें सिर्फ कम्युनिकेशन से भी ठीक कर देते हैं.
बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं आप। और बस मैं एक चीज और ऐड करूंगी, वो ये कि मेडिसिन से नहीं घबराएं, मेडिसिन भी बहुत अच्छी होती है। और डॉक्टर अनीका ने बहुत अच्छा जो है वो प्रेजेंट मुश्किल होता है कि आप अपनी जो स्टोरी है उसको सुनाएं। और जो है मैं समझती हूँ उसके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा रेजिलियंस चाहिए होती है, और काफ़ी एक पावरफुल इम्पैक्ट आपकी लाइफ पे पड़ता है। जब आप इन सब चीज़ों से कोप करते हो तो बहुत कुछ लर्न करते हो। तो मैं समझती हूँ ये बहुत अच्छी बात है, और इसी तरीके से हमें अवेयरनेस सेशंस जो हैं वो रखने चाहिए। और मैं चाहूँगी कि जो है मज़ीद भी जो है इस पे बात हो, क्योंकि डिप्रेशन और एंग्जाइटी जो है बहुत ज़्यादा लड़कियों में बहुत ज़्यादा कॉमन होती जा रही है। तो इस हवाले से जो है हमें बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोग्राम्स करने चाहिए। और बस मैं इतना थोड़ा सा मैंने सुना तो मुझे थोड़ा सा लगा जैसे मेडिसिन पे आप लोगों को थोड़ा ये है कि मेडिसिन जो है वो इतनी इफेक्टिव नहीं होती। तो मेरे पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से तो ये है कि मेडिसिन बहुत ज़्यादा इफेक्टिव भी होती है, डिपेंड करता है कि आप उसको जो है वो कैसे लेते हो, क्या करते हो, क्योंकि केमिकल इम्बैलेंसेस भी होते हैं बॉडी में, ब्रेन में। तो उसको कोप करने के लिए जो है मेडिसिन की बहुत ज़रूरत होती है। तो मेरा ख्याल ये है कि जहाँ आपको लगे कि मेडिसिन की ज़रूरत है वहाँ लेने में कोई मज़ायका नहीं है। और काउंसलिंग भी जो है सॉरी, साथ साथ जो है वो जारी रखें। जी आसिया।
Yes, absolutely. I agree to your point. Um, let's just proceed to the end because I believe किसी और के पास कोई questions नहीं है. So I'm really really grateful Dr. Anika for joining us. Really sorry हमने आपको बहुत ज़्यादा time ले लिया आपके precious time में से. I'm very really sorry for that. But it was a really good time to have you on and the insights that you shared with us. And okay, she's left. But it was a really great time to have everybody on and जिसने भी अपनी थोड़ी बहुत डिटेल शेयर करी. आयशा सिद्दीका आपने जो हमारे साथ अपने एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया. वी होप फ्यूचर में आप भी मे बी यू नो यू कैन ऑल्सो लाइक वी कैन हैव अ सेशन विद यू. आप अपने जर्नी शेयर कर सकती हैं इफ़ दैट्स फाइन विद यू एज वेल. And overall it was a very good experience to have everybody on. We did had a really large audience this time. And it was a really good time to have everybody on. So thank you so much, and hopefully we're gonna come back next month with another insightful topic.